Welcome to the Lexus City Mountain Highway Drive video, where we drive every car we test in 3 distinct environments that you may find yourself in them. The first is in the city, stop and go traffic, low speed, light acceleration, looking at the vehicle's handling characteristics with acceleration, braking, and comfort. Then we take it up in the canyons where we shred it, take a look at the performance of the vehicle. No matter the car, we test every car in this environment. And then we also drive every car down the highway as long as it's a highway capable vehicle, where we see how comfortable it is for a long road trip. So let's start here in the city. Cruising along in the city right now and sitting in the Lexus RX. I have to say the seats are quite comfy. This again is the Lexus RX450 hybrid. So we are working with a hybrid drivetrain. We have a 6-cylinder engine. We have the F Sport trim. This one's optioned up to $10,000 over MSRP, or over base price, I should say. It's a $64,000 build. You can take a look at our previous video where I did a walk around on the exterior and interior and some of the technology in the vehicle, and now we are actually getting it out on the road. So heading up to our stoplight here, coming to a stop. Really good brake blending. You know, a lot of hybrids have problems with managing the relationship between regen and friction brakes, and Toyota always seems to, in most of their cars at least, have a really good brake pedal calibration where it's easy to get the braking power that you want out of the vehicle without having this spongy, weird feeling brake pedal. Now right now our battery pack is quite low. I would know that because I use one of these things to get over the info setup. There's just so many different buttons over here that are not laid out cohesively in the interior. Yeah, so I can pull up this energy monitor screen and I can see I have my 2 electric motors, my battery pack. It is all-wheel drive, of course, and yeah, pretty potent drivetrain, quite comfortable to cruise around in. You know, the Lexus RX is like, we kind of consider it like the ultimate old person car is what it's really known as. But you have to say it's good for a reason. It's reliable, they last a long time, they're easy to get in and out of, and it's a nice car. It is a good car to cruise in. It's not a car for those who are into cars though. This is not an enthusiast vehicle, and that really is left lacking in many ways, which we'll find out when we get the canyons. But in terms of reliability, in terms of space, it hits all the marks, and it's just easy to live with. So we have right now we're cruising in the normal mode. There's also an eco mode and a custom mode that you can choose your driveline settings in. And yeah, in normal mode, that's how most people will drive it. They'll just turn it on, put it in drive, and go. The nice thing is when you're at a stop, the engine shuts off, so you get extended period of time without idling, just saving on fuel economy. And have to say, it's a pretty comfortable car just to go from A to B in a city environment. You know, it's not that fast, it's not twitchy, it does everything as expected. It's not that big, so you can actually park it. The turning radius is pretty poor. When you go full lock on the steering wheel, it doesn't spin on a dime. It really takes a little bit to get this thing to turn compared to other vehicles in its category. But the hybrid system, Toyota's been doing it for 20 years. Super smooth and comfortable, easy to get up to speed. Now, this isn't that fast in town. If you need to jump in front of someone, you put your foot down, you wait, and then it builds up the speed. So don't expect to win any red light drag races in this thing. But for just your general cruise, sure, I could see this being an easy car to daily drive, and that's how they will mostly be used. Very reliable, quite fuel efficient. All seems good to me on that front. In the city, in terms of cabin feel, there's not much leg room, I will say. You know, in terms of the seat going far back is fine. I'm talking about where I can spread my legs. They hit the door and the center console quite easily, which I'm not a fan of. But the seat is very comfortable. This again is the F Sport one with the sportier seats. I think they're really quite comfortable. Good lumbar support as well. Not many adjustments, but it moves the seat around in all the places you would want them to be. And yeah, the infotainment system's really quite lacking, I think, but you don't really need to do anything with it. They put this giant screen here for you to do stuff, but it doesn't really do anything. It's got like the oldest looking navigation system ever. I mean, nothing about this screen is modern except the style of it. It doesn't get very bright, so just don't use it. Get the car set up when you take delivery and just ignore that is there and drive this from A to B, and for that it is very good. So Really enjoying driving this car around the city. Let's see what it's like when we take it up in the canyons. The one thing I do want to mention though is if you're into music, this particular one has the optional Mark Levinson sound system. While it is not one of the best systems I've heard, it is one of the better, and it is a great system if you just like to listen to music at low volume or high volume. It's a pretty crisp, quite warm sounding system, and I like it a lot. So you're probably thinking, what's the reason to take the Lexus RX into the mountains and see how it drives in a performance setting? Well, the answer is we're not going to I understand this is not a performance car. Trust me, I know. But it is important because a lot of Lexus RX buyers may live in the mountains or have a mountain home, and you need to feel comfortable about its all-wheel drive system and its power to get up hills, especially being naturally aspirated up here at altitude in Colorado. You know, power is a big deal, and you'll actually see a lot of people option the higher spec engines here at altitude than you do in other places. For example, we get a lot of BMW 340i's instead of 330i's, just as an example. So here we are cruising along the Lexus, heading up over to Horsetooth Reservoir. I don't think we will shred this up the entire mountain roads I normally do. This will be a quicker video. One, I just don't really have the time to do a performance loop, and two, it doesn't really matter. You just need to make sure that this thing can get around a corner quite comfortably, that it doesn't feel dangerous, and that it's good. Again, it's a comfort-oriented hybrid vehicle. So what I'm going to do to get everything set up is I'm going to twist it over into Sport. I rotate this knob down here by my right hand to the right, and then that is like the first level. The first thing you notice is the tach goes to an RPM gauge. So before it showed a power meter, now we have a tachometer. It still shuts off in EV mode. Right now we are running not on a combustion engine. Now we are. Foot down. Oh, it's not that fast. Okay, so then after this I can rotate it to the right again and go to a Sport Plus setting. That should sharpen things up all the way. And I believe this car has adjustable dampers too, because I'm feeling a lot more undulations in the road, and it's really you know, making things quite firmer for the vehicle as well. Now on top of this Sport setting, I can turn traction control off, although in Toyotas you need to be stopped in order to do that, but we're not going to be sliding it around. Then I can pull the shifter to the left and shift manually, and this is where things get weird. First off, the shifter's the wrong direction. I pull back to downshift, but I'm also given these quite nice paddle shifters. But because this is a CVT transmission, you shouldn't use manual mode. Look, the engine is revving, but our speed hasn't changed. I'm shifting through the gears, and nothing's happening. And this Honda behind me wants to play around, I guess. So pretty interesting to see how poor the transmission is in a performance setting. When you put your foot down, it spins up, but I don't understand the point of being able to shift gears in this car, because it has no relation. The RPMs have no relation to speed. Listen. Oh, and there's a St. Bernard in the vehicle in front of us. We just got one of those as a foster, and want to keep him. He's a great dog. Appa is his name, and looks just like the one in this Jeep here in front of us. So no problem that they're going slow. Let the dog have a comfortable ride. You know, CVTs in general tend to annoy me, although I've driven some recently that have been tuned really well. Specifically the Nissan Sentra, the new one, had a great CVT, and you know, I'm not afraid to admit that something I don't necessarily believe in works, and that worked. Here in this car, it is great for around town. You put this thing in comfort mode and you cruise, and man, is it nice and comfortable, and you don't even think about it. So let's hit a couple corners up. We'll see if we can get take advantage of one of these passing zones up here, although it does look to be very high traffic here at Horsetooth. So we're not going to do anything crazy. We're also in a Lexus RX, so we're not going to do anything crazy because of that. Very quiet cabin, very comfortable here at speed. So let's initiate a pass. Very gentle pass, a very Lexus pass as well. We will take advantage of this. And now we come into some corners. So big speed down, 5,000 RPM. Braking power is strong. Whoa, there's a lot of body lean. And we're wide open throttle. And traction control is kicking in. And we've come across a Toyota hybrid brethren, a Prius. So yeah, the Honda also passed. He's right with us. Have to say, not a fan of the power level of this car. For a premium $65,000 SUV, you put your foot down and literally nothing happens. And I guess that's okay because the target buyer for this doesn't care. But to me, it doesn't feel premium. You know, I know this car is a Lexus and it comes with a hefty price tag, and on paper, the leather's really nice, the build quality is amazing. Everything about this car feels really meaty and really good. The problem is it just doesn't drive well. Is that okay to say? I think so. I think it doesn't drive like a premium SUV. You get into an X5, you get into a Range Rover. Obviously, those are a little more expensive. I'm trying to think what competes with this. You're looking at X3. You're looking at Audi Q5. You're going to be cross-shopping. Maybe Land Rover Discovery. There's one right there. It's a little bigger. And this just doesn't have the grown-up bank vault type feeling that a lot of these other offerings offer. Even some of the Cadillacs drive better than this. So if you're not into cars at all, you're not going to be watching this video. If you're not into cars, you're looking at a Lexus RX and you happen to stumble upon this video, buy this car. It's very good. My grandmother has one of these and it's perfect for her because she doesn't care about cars. She goes from A to B. She's had her Lexus RX for 10 years. It's her second one. And that's just, you're a Lexus RX person, and that's great, and I'm happy that they make this car for you. And there's an old Lexus brethren, and no wave, but I was thinking maybe we'd have a little Lexus love going on there. But for me, if you're into cars, if you appreciate true vehicle dynamics and engineering, this is not for you. And you already knew that before you clicked on this video. No surprises here, just a very good car to cruise around town in, and we're going to find out here on the highway shortly. But not really a handler. Leans and understeers, and traction control kicks on way too much, even in the Sport Plus setting. So yeah, I think we'll cut that there. It's the shortest canyon drive we've had. We've even had electric Ford Transits go farther up our performance loop because that was pretty impressive. There was that poor turning radius I was talking about. Not the best. And big power. Here we go. It just doesn't rev out. It doesn't shift. When you're at wide open throttle, it just stays there at 5,000 RPM, 5,500. Getting it into these corners, man, does it just push and understeer. It just does not like to be driven like that, so I'm going to put it back into normal mode and cruise. That's how this car is meant to be driven. Let's talk about some safety features in the RX. So, just going around, I have blind spot monitoring, which is great. We have lane departure assist, which basically will mean if I touch the line, it will buzz the steering wheel and push me back in. We have adaptive cruise control that I can adjust the distance on, and it even does lane tracing where it keeps itself in the middle of the lane. Here it is coming up to a stop. We're just going to let it slow down all on its own. So I'm not touching the brakes. It's slowing down well ahead of time. Very smooth. Brings you all the way down to 0, which is great. And then it will accelerate all on its own. So adaptive cruise is awesome for sure. We have some sub-menus here in the instrument cluster that I can pull up just for my driver assistance. It says we're linked to the car in front and it is actively steering. I see that for sure. What else do we have? Just, yeah, really comfortable ride for highway driving, especially in stop and go traffic. You just put on the systems, take your feet off the pedals, be ready to take over in case it messes up. But for the most part, it is just accelerating and braking. I'm not having to do anything here in sort of this dense traffic, which is really awesome. We have heated and cooled seats that are extremely comfortable, as I mentioned. Everything about this car is designed to be easy and out of the way, except for this infotainment system, and the way to make it out of the way is just not to use it. So at high speeds, we won't actually have a chance to bring this out on the highway in this video, just because when I filmed this portion yesterday, my files got lost. So I'm running out now just before it goes back to film this. But I have to say this car is comfortable, quiet, unobtrusive on the highway. It is just a good cruiser, definitely a cross-country blaster. The hybrid drivetrain is under-stressed at low speed, really no problem there. You can see it took it a second for it to move away from this light on the adaptive cruise. But when you're cruising down the highway, you put all the systems on, and it just takes the effort out of driving. All you're doing really is monitoring the situation, and you're ready to take over if something were to happen. But yeah, I mean, passes on uphills, it's tough. You're going to use wide open throttle, but that's okay. I don't think it needs to be more powerful. It's just adequate. And that kind of describes this car. It is adequate all around. So no real positives here, no real serious negatives. It is just a very beige kind of car I keep saying if beige was a car, it would be this. And yeah, all good, super comfortable. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. And plenty of cooler cars to come, I promise.